Not all hit records are classic records, and not all classic records are hits. Bro, that's a beautiful song, by the way. Sorry.
Alright, so this is one topic that you brushed on a couple of times.
Yeah. I think we addressed it at some point, but maybe not
in depth.
Yeah.
Because I mean, sometimes you say it, and I'm wondering, like, what do you actually mean? So
Yeah.
I think this is a good episode.
Yeah.
What's inspired this topic?
So Missy Elliott sent out a tweet last week. Was it last week or 2 weeks ago? Did you guys see that tweet? I think Paul even posted it. She asked, I think I saw it on Barry Hefner's page, if I'm not wrong. She asked Barry Hefner. She asked a simple question: what is the difference between a hit and a classic record? And the answers were quite interesting. Because a lot of people were of the opinion that a hit is a record that can change your life, but a classic record is a record that can give you a career at the top for a long time, right? But a lot of people tended to want to separate the two, right? People felt like you can either be a hit record or a classic record. That's not true. Sometimes a record is both a hit record and a classic. You understand? Right? But not all hit records are classic records, and not all classic records are hits. Do you understand? For example, Ashewo by Flavor was released in 2011, I believe. In 2011, when people were listing their year-end songs, I know a lot of Southeastern people are going to have a problem with it, but just facts are facts. The top 10 records for 2011, it was not there. Top 20 probably wasn't even there, right? But over the past 10 years, in terms of the top 10 records, top 5 records that were released in 2011, it's going to be there. Do you understand? So those are two conversations. Like in the span of 2011, which it was released, it wasn't a top 10 record. But since then, over the past 11 years, if you were to rank the status of the top 5 records that were released in 2011, you put it in the conversation. If you were to rank the top 5 records that were released in 2011, Flavor's Asha will probably be there. So a lot of times, some records in the moment, they are not as big as other records in the moment, but over time, they tend to be bigger. Maybe because in a TikTok era, someone puts the same record on a sample and it's now spiking back up. Or maybe someone even used the song in Netflix TV show like Katie Bush. Bro, Katie Bush's record went back to top 10, top 5 in a lot of countries across the world. Just because of one advert, one trailer, one. You know, the trailer was epic. I don't even watch the show. But the point is, some records are like that. Now, we also need to differentiate between records that are cult classics and records that are actual classics, right? There are a lot of artists across the world that don't exactly have the widest fan base. Their fan base is not in the mainstream. It's just very small compartments of the mainstream. For example, Brymo's fan base is not exactly the biggest. But guess what? They are big enough for Brymo to have good hits, good numbers. And Brymo's good enough is for him to sometimes sell outside of his primary fan base. And then number 3, a lot of things that are classics to Brymo's fan base, like someone like me, some people outside don't even know the words of those songs. Do you understand? If you ask the regular person in the streets, what's the Brymo record that they know? They probably know R. That's all. But have you been to a Brymo show before? Last Brymo show, Brymo released a song. He released an album like a week or 2 weeks before. People were singing, no listen, ping, ping, like there and they had the videos. I have posted on my Twitter. I don't know if anybody saw it. Yeah. So that's the difference. So a lot of people need to understand the balance between the hit record. And sometimes, because we have charts these days, it's very easy to say a record that goes to the top of a chart is a hit record. Not exactly. Not exactly. Because these days, what mostly determines the status of what charts high, it's a bunch of things. Status of the artist, marketing, pre-release marketing, TikTok, features. Do you understand? You can't put Justin Bieber on a record, for example, and it won't get to top 2 on Apple Music 100 in Nigeria. It's not possible. Do you understand? It's literally not possible. The shock value and the interest that you have aroused in people is enough for them to go and stream the record. So the initial rush alone, for example, I can go stream a record. Initially, we can rush to stream it. By next week, it's falling. You can then, a lot of people then say, oh, it's a hit record. Maybe not. You just got to number one. So there are dynamics to some of these things. So the major thing that determines a hit, we're going to get to it a little bit later, I believe.
So speaking about hits and classics, which one should artists aspire to?
I believe you should aspire to both, man. If you're a pop star. If you're a pop star, because number one, in the moment, a hit record is going to make you a lot of money. You're going to make money from direct sales and streaming, and you're going to get blown off on TikTok. You're going to become a star if possible, even if it's for one summer like Fetty Wap. You're going to tour. you're going to tour with it, right? You might get endorsements off of it, because what gives people superstar status for brands, enough for brands to be able to jump on you, is the status of, it's like how many people are listening to you, how many people recognize you. If I put you on a billboard, are people going to look at you twice? You understand? So a hit record, one or two hit records will get you there. So that's two. And then if you have that, then if it becomes a classic, now you're looking at generating of samples and interpolations over a long period of time. You're looking at performing the song at different shows. Look at, like, if you look at the top 10 highest grossing tours of all time, I checked it like 2 years ago. I think I even tweeted about it. Bro, only Ed Sheeran is there, I believe. Ed Sheeran is the only artist, maybe Taylor Swift. Ed Sheeran is the only person in the top 10. The rest are Rolling Stone, AC/DC, The Eagles. Bro, do you understand? Bands that released music in like the 80s and the 90s and the 70s. They're the ones that are selling out 100,000, 550,000, 70,000, and then their tours are grossing like $500 million. Do you understand? So that's the power of classic records. Nostalgia. Nostalgia is also currency. So it depends on who you are. But if you're Ibrahimo, for example, you aspire more to classic records. You might aspire to hit sometimes. You can see sometimes Ibrahimo is trying to do radio-worthy music. For example, Hallelujah, Meje. It's not exactly, maybe in the normal balance of what is radio record is. But for Ibrahimo, that feels like a radio record because it's very resonant, it's very catchy, it's very memorable, and a lot of things come to your mind. So, if you're a Ibrahimo, for example, if you're a niche artist with a cult fan base, you might not exactly need a hit. So it depends, number one, an artist has to know who they are. Number two, their goals. Number three, what is realistic for them? Both short term and long term. For example, your biggest source of revenue, if you're Bantu crew, for example, their biggest source of revenue is touring. These guys, they're Nigerians, they're crew, they tour in Europe, they tour in America, go in different parts of the world, but they don't have great numbers. Madikuti doesn't have great numbers. But do you think he's making money? Exactly, bro. So classic records for him. That's it.
Wow. Alright. So let's bring this one now to Nigerian music.
Yeah.
Why is this always an argument around the status of hit records?
First things first, we need to understand something. A hit record is the conversation about hit records in Nigeria can only be had by logical people who have very remote bias. We can't do without our biases. It's not possible for people not to have a bias, but people that are not crippled, whose judgments are not crippled by bias. That's number one. Number two, a lack of structure in this industry where we can properly aggregate all our different fragmentations in terms of silos in this country, where we can aggregate and understand what is going on adequately. Only people who are generally aware can understand differences between a lot of things in this industry. Right? So, it goes back to the first point. Only logical people can have those conversations. Number three, people judge hits based on their circles. What is big in their circles? What they like. What is popular within their circles. Not exactly what is a huge record. A lot of people tend to conflate with some of those things sometimes. A lot of records are popular, they are not hits. I know it's a tough conversation to have. It's a very tough conversation to have. But we have a lot of popular records. Not a lot of hits. But a lot of times people want to conflate them. Just because you stand in front of a crowd and they're singing it back to you doesn't make it a hit. In the moment when you see a hit, you will know. Does anybody need to tell you that Bugatti is a hit? Do you understand? Does anybody? Last is not the quintessential pop record. It's not a record that you'll be dancing to like go lo 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 Bugatti. But my brother, is that record a smash? It is. Do you understand? Does anybody need to tell you that Peace Be Unto You is a hit record? These are the conversations. That's it. But someone will now come and tell you that which record is there. Let's go on. We'll find a record. But a lot of records, a lot of people want to say they're not hit records, right? Then number 4, numbers confuse people. We live in an era of numbers where people just want to go on about, oh, it has great numbers. It has great numbers. First things first. Numbers are inspired by a lot of things. A superstar artist is not going to have horrible numbers. It's not possible. If they release the song and it is silence, like Melody once said something. Melody is a member of the Beehive, by the way. She said, I said, don't you think if Beyonce releases any album, don't you think you would have said, if Beyonce releases a silent album, I'll listen because she might talk at the end. Do you understand? This is what we're dealing with. Wizkid is not going to release a song that is not going to have great numbers. It is not going to happen. Do you know why? He has an incredible fan base. On DSPs, he has a lot of subscribers. So that means algorithms are naturally going to pick up his songs. Number 3, internet penetration is growing across the world. A lot of people, most people in the world now are young people. Under 21, under 19, most parts of the world. Africa is the youngest demographic in the world. And most of them are digital natives. So once they push these things in your face, you are going to click because it's Wizkid. There's a fear of missing out in your mind. Number 4, this guy is assigned to majors. Majors that want to see them make money, because a lot of majors, 70%, 80% of the artists they sign, you don't even get to know them. So the ones you know and the ones that are making money, they're going to push them in your face. Number 4, TikTok, my brother. If a record goes up on TikTok, not all the time, but sometimes if a record blows up on TikTok, normally, and if they market it properly, to not just that you're not really listening to it on TikTok, it could blow up for you in real life. And number 5, there are ads these days, YouTube ads. A lot of people seem to not understand how people are marketing in this industry. When people release music, they might not put ads in Nigeria so that you won't come and be arguing. They do ads outside the country, try to break it to you. If you're in the US, if you use a US version of certain things, or you go to the US, you are going to see a different type of music. Some of your faves are marketing their music, they are putting their music on YouTube ads in Australia and America, South America. Just sorry to break it to you. And number 5, it's unlikely that you put 2 incredible artists on a record, big artists sometimes, and it's not going to have great numbers. Burna Boy's question, is it a hit record? No, it has 30 million streams in less than a year. Now, here's another factor that people also need to understand. The world is a global village because of social media, internet, and TikTok and DSPs, right? You need to understand that 30 million streams that you're talking about, it's not just from Nigeria. There are times now that a lot of records have incredible streams, but they might not be hits. It might not be a hit in any country. Do you understand? I don't know if you understand what I'm trying to paint. 30 million streams, there are over 200 countries in the world. If a record is able to amass 1,000 streams per day in each of those countries, it's not going to be big. It's not going to be a normal record in any of those countries, but it's going to have incredible numbers somewhere. It's going to have incredible numbers on DSPs. It's going to have incredible numbers on you. So it's not like if those DSPs were only showing you numbers from particular countries, we can have certain arguments. But even then, we might not be able to have the arguments because of the status of the artist sometimes. And because of the subscribers, because they're assigned to somebody, because of marketing. So a lot of times, you can't have certain conversations because the records are not even big in any, they just have great numbers. Meanwhile, that's good enough for the artist because the artist is making money. And that's why a lot of artists can't accept it because, oh, now. Do you understand? Money they enter. And when I go to my shows, my stamp base comes there and they sing it back to me. So you can't tell me anything. But it's not always like that because the world is bigger than your stamp base. And that's the conversations that we need to have. These are the conversations that we need to have. That's it.
Alright, so you're saying all popular records are hits?
All popular records are not hits, but all hits are popular records. Do you understand? Like, just because you can see it in your circles doesn't mean it's a hit record. What determines a hit record these days is number one, cultural impact. Staying power coupled with that cultural impact. And because our industry is so fragmented now into so many silos, there's radio, there's TV, there's internet. On the internet, there's like social media, DSPs. TikTok is now like it's silo, it's becoming a silo on its own these days. So if you are going to have a hit record, it has to go across board, bro. Not just your fan base. Your an artist's primary fan base is also like a silo these days. But it has to go across board. Fam, I don't like Buga. I can't stand it. I can't stand that song. But my brother, is that song a smash? Do you understand? If my mother hears Buga, this place is going to shut down. Do you understand? I'm not even joking. This is real life stuff. I want 2 hands up. Do you understand? These are hit records. When Olamide's Drosoke came out, I remember because I grew up in Akure, I came to Lagos for my uncle's 50th birthday. And when Drosoke came up, my grandmother must have been around 72 at the time. Do you understand? Cultural impact. Not just because your fan base in Lagos is singing it. Not just because someone is able to plug it adequately on radio. Records that transcend and live beyond the digital marketing and the marketing that you give them and go on to develop a life of their own, to have great cultural impact, staying power, and impact across all silos and beyond, mainly beyond your primary fan base. That's it.
Alright, so what is a hit record in Nigerian music in 2020?
That's it. I said it.
But if an artist is making great money from a record, wouldn't that make it a hit?
My brother, I mean, I'm happy for artists. I want artists to make money, bro. Sometimes you don't even need hits, just make money. Bro, I feel like a lot of artists feel it's an indictment on them when you tell them those things, but it's not. It's just what it is. Do you understand? It's just what it is. If you're making money, nobody cares. Like, anyway, if I was making money from somebody and someone tell me it's not a hit, bro, I'll say, bro, I know, but I'm making money, so I don't care. My label is cool. So that's why a lot of times these days, majors don't even care about, like, that's why numbers, remember the episode that we did about why music is suffering in Nigerian music? Like, earlier in the year. It wasn't suffering, but Nigerian music, we were struggling to have good music at the time. Like, it's mostly about strategy for a lot of people because what I want is to have great numbers and to generate revenue. It doesn't necessarily have to crack the Billboard Hot 100. It just has to be big enough for my artist to have 80 million monthly listeners on Spotify. I can make healthy money. All these things that people are doing in this country, I don't care. Because the tariff is higher there. People are paying more money there. There's way more internet penetration. There's better consumer behavior. People who are more willing to stream music on DSPs, are more willing to pay money for music. I don't care. So these are the conversations that we need to have. It's not as simple.
So we need to understand the difference between digital hits and actual hits.
Yeah. Little hits, and that's another conversation that we need to have. And make no mistake, just because a song has strong numbers on DSPs doesn't mean it's a little hit. Again. Understanding. where the numbers are coming from. Sometimes the numbers are not coming from one country. A lot of times it's coming from a lot of places because discoverability of music, social media, the internet, it's sort of democratized access to discoverability of music. A lot of people now are listening to your music in Fiji. You heard Mo Believe come here the other day and said someone from, was it Panama? Sent me a message and I'm like, I don't even understand what you're saying, it's Yoruba, but I'm listening. Bro, that's how the world is right now, literally. So for something to even be a digital hit these days, digital is not just DSPs. You're looking at social media as well, TikTok numbers. You're looking at usability on TikTok, how people are actually discovering and using the music. So bring the numbers, let's see. Just because you have great numbers on DSPs, does it always, not, sometimes it does, not always. So fine lines and looking at the fine print so you can understand what's a digital hit and what's not. And guess what? All digital hits are not hits these days. Gucci's Jennifer has great numbers. I just saw her have 500, she hit 50 million streams on Boomplay recently. Is she a superstar in Nigeria? Bro, if you have 50 million streams, bro, that's 4 times Fireboy's numbers on Boomplay. Like, Fireboy has 200, I mean, it's a lot more, but someone like Gucci has 50 million. That's a lot. But a lot of people don't know her, right? Jennifer, digital hit. Was it a real life hit? Maybe not. You understand? But is she making money? Yes.
So would you say they are Akida studio records?
Yeah, that's another conversation that we need to have. Some records are not exactly big, smash hits, but they're big enough. So I would say there are like 3 cadres to hit records. I would say this year, for example, I would say a Buga, for example, is tier 1. Tier 1. Palazzo probably tier 1. What's that record again? Peace Be Unto You, probably tier 1. Omokpe, probably tier 1. Maybe it's records like Machala, maybe tier 3. Do you understand? Because it came, had its impact, and we are not exactly hearing it anymore. But it hits a lot of places. Do you understand? Tier 3. So we need to be able to grade them because you can't put, is Machala a hit record? Yes. But can you put it on the same level as Buga? No. Not even just because Buga is an international hit. That's not even what. Even here in Nigeria, even here. So you need to understand that there are cadres to some of these things. Like you can't put some records some records on the same level as other records. We need to be able to understand the difference. That's it.
So can the status of the new record be based on opinion?
No. In fact, if the status of a hit has to be disputed, then it's probably not a hit. Do you understand? And I mean disputed, not disputed by haters. Do you understand? Yeah. Wizkid FC will want to dispute the status of a Davido record that's probably a hit on the 3rd cadre. Do you understand? Yeah. But doesn't mean that it's not a hit. So if logical people can have a conversation. And for example, on the last episode of our podcast, we're having a conversation about who has more hit records, Drema, Fireboy, Jobo, and Omale. And it became a big argument. I was of the opinion that Omale's remix, Jackie's Forever remix to Omale, is much bigger than the original. And they were like, no. And it got me thinking because I knew that they were not coming from the perspective of bias. They were logical people. Now, it might be recency bias or whatever, but they are still logical people. So it's not left for us to break it down into some of the parts. So what I'm saying here in essence is it can't be based on opinions. It's just facts. It's 2 things when it comes to hit records. It's either facts or delusions and ignorance. And that's facts only.